American patriots. Are you a supporter of the Second Amendment? Are you a responsible gun owner? If so, then you know the day will come that you're going to need a trusted and qualified gunsmith. When that day arrives, I want you to contact the man that I trust with my weapons, Mr. Delaney Jackson, owner of Jumpin, Gunsmith, and Appraisal. Besides being a professional gunsmith, Delaney is a true American patriot. And, a little trivia for you, he's also the manager and guitar player for country music legend Mr. Mark Chestnut. So when the time arrives, take your weapons to the man who treats my weapons like they're his own, my trusted friend, Mr. Delaney Jackson at Jumpin, Gunsmith, and Appraisal. Contact information and website information is in the description of this video below. Thank you and God bless.
I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hello, American patriots, and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places you could be tonight, but you chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Well, boy, things are changing all across our globe right now. For those of you who are not aware, the sanctions are starting to squeeze Russia drastically. So much so that they have told the European nations that everything to do with oil and gas that they get from Russia now has to be paid in rubles, which is what Russia uses for their currency because the ruble is crashing. So they said, you pay in rubles. You start a Russian bank, and that's how you will pay us. And NATO countries said, go to hell. We're not doing that. So then Putin said today that fine, he will shut off all the gas and oil pipelines going into Europe tomorrow. Well, Europe, the entire area of Europe, gets most of their oil and gas from where? Russia. That's the way it's set up. That's what they do. That's where we're at right now. And once again, this crazy, deranged dictator is doing everything in his power to screw with everyone that wants to be a free person, a free human in our society. And it's an outright disgrace. Russian defense officials still will not take any phone calls from our Pentagon. That is also very alarming. We've always had open communications with our enemies, even when we're at war. We have some type of open communications. There is none right now. Spokesman John Kirby of the Pentagon said today, revealing the U.S. has yet to establish a direct military line with Russian President Vladimir Putin since the start of the Ukraine war. Kirby told American Reports, Pentagon officials have repeatedly tried to reach out to their Russian counterparts since Russia began its invasion, but their attempts have been unsuccessful. I can tell you from the Pentagon perspective, we have tried on numerous occasions in recent days and weeks to reach out to our counterparts, the Ministry of Defense, the chairman of the Joint Chief equivalent in the Russian military, and we have been unsuccessful. They have not been willing to pick up the phone and have a conversation of any sort. Co-host Sandra Smith asked Kirby how the Pentagon perceives their sudden silence. It's hard to know exactly what it tells us, Sandra, except that they are being resented to have a conversation with us, maybe because they know what we're going to tell them, he said. We're going to tell them they have to stop this war. They've got to sit down in good faith and pull their troops out of Ukraine. So it's unfortunate because right now, that's the time when you want to be able to have those communications, but you can't. Unfortunately, the Russians are not willing to pick up the damn telephone. President Biden earlier Thursday said Putin appears to be self-isolated, and the United States has gotten some indication that he's fired or put under house arrest some of his advisors. As for whether Kirby can confirm Russia's military counterparts are still working closely with the Russian leader, the Pentagon spokesman said, I don't have a good sense of exactly what their organizational structure looks like right now. But he added, the Pentagon has no indication that the Russian Ministry of Defense or general of their armed forces has been removed from their active roles. We are still acting under the assumption that they are the leaders, and that's who we should be reaching out to, he said, and we are trying to. Kirby also pushed back on critics questioning the White House desire for Ukraine to defeat Russia. Absolutely, we want everything we can to make sure Ukraine is successful, he said. We want it to end, and we want Ukraine's sovereignty and all of their sovereignty to stay intact. Let's get off the Ukraine war and talk about what's happening right here in America that's really pretty damn stupid. As you all know, Joe Biden gets to pick his new person to be up there and as a Supreme Court justice. And he said not only would he pick a woman, but it would be a black woman. And he's done that. And I can think of many black women that would be qualified for this job. I'm sure you can too. But as we all know from what he appoints in his administration, that's not what you get. You don't get the best qualified candidate for anything. You get whatever based on sex and race. Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, South Carolina, regardless of what you think of him, said something today that makes sense. He said he will oppose Judge Brown Jackson's nomination to the Supreme Court, a change from a year ago when Graham was one of the 3 GOP senators that approved her to the appeals court. Graham announced his position on the Senate floor today, citing in part, Jackson's record as a federal court judge in sentencing child pornography offenders to lesser sentences than the guidelines stated. I oppose and will vote against the nomination of Judge Jackson to the Supreme Court, Graham said. My decision is based upon a record of activism, flawed sentencing methodology regarding child pornography cases, and a belief that Judge Jackson will not be deterred by the planned meeting of the law when it comes to liberal causes. Jackson got 3 GOP senators last year for her confirmation to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia. Graham, Susan Collins of Maine, and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska. Murkowski has not yet announced how she'll vote. Brother Collins announces this week she would support Jackson, giving the White House at least some level of bipartisan support for President Biden's first Supreme Court nominee. Of the hearings, Graham was one of the toughest questioners of Jackson on her child pornography sentencing records. On Thursday, today, he called her an evasive witness and decried her record for not using 2 sentencing enhancement factors as a federal judge that he says would serve as a deterrent to the explosion of child pornography on the internet. I find Judge Jackson to be the person of extraordinary good character, respected by her peers, and someone who has worked hard to achieve her current position, Graham said today. However, her record is overwhelmingly in its lack of a steady philosophy and a tendency to achieve outcomes in spite of what the law requires or common sense would dictate. Graham was a vocal opponent of Jackson, and instead, Biden announced her as his nominee. Biden passed over Graham's pick, South Carolina District Court Judge J. Michelle Childs, in favor of Jackson, who Graham dubbed the favorite of the radical left. Senator Angus King, independent Maine, said that Jackson did a good job at her confirmation hearing of holding her own against Graham. King said Graham still seemed irked that Biden didn't choose Childs. He seems to be most upset that his candidate didn't get in. King said last week on a break during the committee hearings, and to me, that's not a significant reason to vote against the candidate. What part of child pornography didn't you get, you fucking idiot? And listen, my friends, if these other two nut jobs, Susan Collins of Maine and Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, happen to be your senators, reach out to them and tell them how you feel about child pornography. Please. That's the only way they're going to get the message. And if you follow me, you know how I feel about those that do horrible things to children. I don't believe they should be walking amongst us, period. And anybody that votes for somebody who goes lenient on those accused of doing bad things to children, well, you're just as guilty. As far as I'm concerned, you're a horrible, disgusting human being. Federal prosecutors are zeroing in on a single Trump tweet that may have been the catalyst for right-wing extremists to join the Capitol riot. Prosecutors are looking at a December Trump tweet as a call to action for far-right extremists. Trump urged supporters to attend the January 6th rally, tweeting, "Be there, it will be wild." The January 6th panel is gathering evidence to prove the tweet is part of a catalyst for the riot. Federal prosecutors are zeroing in on the December 2020 tweet from President Donald J. Trump that may have been a call for right-wing actors to go to the Capitol on January 6, 2021. The New York Times reported. Big protests in D.C. on January 6. Trump tweeted on December 19th. It was the first time he announced the Save America rally, which took place in Washington, D.C., less than 2 miles from the U.S. Capitol. "Be there, will be wild." The tweet said, prosecutors believe far-right and extremist groups immediately interpreted Trump's message as a call to action for them to head to the Capitol and stop Congress from certifying Joe Biden's victory in the 2020 election that day, according to the Times. According to court filings and interview records compiled by the House Select Committee investigating the Capitol riot, multiple people associated with far-right groups like the Oath Keepers and the Proud Boys started communicating with each other on message apps and gathering arms and protective gear. By the Times accounting, prosecutors have included examples of these actions in at least 5 criminal case charges against them, and a group of other crimes in connection to the Capitol riots, including seditious conspiracy. And according to the report, both the Justice Department and the House Select panel are gathering more evidence that shows Trump's initial December 2020 tweet announced the rally was a powerful catalyst for his supporters to head to the Capitol on January 6. A number of defendants in the Justice Department's sprawling Capitol riot probe have blamed Trump for inspiring and inciting the deadly siege at the Capitol. Look, this is the essence of batshit crazy. To link those tweets is Trump calling for a violent overthrow of the Capitol. If that's all you got, go home. Just fucking go home. You're a disgrace to America. The Department of Veterans Affairs released its plan this week to launch finally, a canine training program for eligible veterans with post-traumatic stress disorder. 5 VA medical centers have been chosen across the country to offer the pilot program for the next 5 years. These are in Anchorage, Virginia Medical Center in Alaska, Anchorage VA Medical Facility in Atlanta, the Charles George Department of Veterans Affairs in Asheville, North Carolina. I've been there. It's a pretty nice facility. The Palo Alto VA Medical Center in California. Been to that one too. It's really nice. And the Audie L. Murphy Memorial Veterans Hospital in San Antonio. Been there too. And the West Palm Beach VA Medical Center in Florida. There are many effective treatments for PTSD, and we're looking at service dog training in those locations to ensure veterans have access to resources that may improve their well-being and help them thrive. VA Secretary Dennis McDowell said in a press release announcing the chosen pilot locations. Advocates have long pressured on lawmakers to finance service dog training for veterans and an option to deal with mental health challenges, and I've been one of them that's been on the front battle of that. The program, they hope, will raise awareness for this treatment option as a proven method of going through the debilitating symptoms of PTSD and suicidal indications. Roy Damon, CEO of the nonprofit Canines for Warriors, said in a press release last year that conceded with the passage of a law creating the pilot program. The pilot program was required under the Puppies Assistance Wounded Service Members of Veterans Therapy Act, or the PAWS Act, which was signed into law on August 25th of 2021. Advocates and officials say that service dogs can help bolster veterans' sense of self-worth, as well as help with the retired service members regulate their emotions as they have established trust with their service animal. Veterans in the program will help train potential future service dogs and engage in a social atmosphere. Following the 8-week program, qualified veterans will have the option to adopt the dog they assisted in training. VA has not named the partner organizations it will work with to run the training, although there's many of them out there that are really, really good, and I hope that they choose this wisely. A report from the Congressional Budget Office estimates the total expense for the VA to include this treatment option through 2026 from the training of the veterinary health care will be roughly $30 million at roughly $27,000 per dog. Now, let me just share something with you. As someone who recently, his service dog passed away and is very, very familiar with the programs that are out there that train these dogs. It doesn't cost $27,000 per dog. It's not going to cost $30 million. But that's how our government wastes your money. Fraud, waste, and abuse. There it is, my friends. This is a prime example of how our government can take something that's really needed, drastically needed, to help veterans suffering with PTSD, and fuck it all up by overinflating the shit out of what it's going to cost. I hope that they regroup and come to a better conclusion about that, because I don't want to see our tax money being wasted any more than you do. Miranda Devine reacted on Outnumbered Tuesday to the federal tax probe into Hunter Biden's foreign business dealings, gaining momentum as some media outlets began to acknowledge the bombshell controversy surrounding his infamous laptop. Finally, we have CNN and MSNBC and a lot of these liberal rags that suppressed the story and said it was all Russian disinformation and it was all a hoax and it wasn't true. And now that it's been proven, it's a fact that the laptop exists. It's a fact that it was turned over to the FBI, but now the FBI claims they don't know what happened to it. Continuing on, she said, it's just another extraordinary mistruth from President Trump there. He did that through the campaign. He pretended that he knew nothing about his son's Hunter's overseas, President Biden, I'm sorry, I think I said President Trump, overseas business dealings. There's plenty of evidence on the laptop and Tony Bolosky material and the material that Chuck Grassley and Ron Johnson collected for their Senate investigation are currently presenting to Congress. And it was entered into Congress yesterday, I believe, into the record. They have a copy of what was on the laptop that was made by the computer company before they handed it over to the FBI. That's how we know what was on it. I think they're going to be doing that on a regular basis to show links between Hunter Biden and communist China. There's also evidence that Joe Biden financially benefited from Hunter Biden's gift and his brother Jim Biden's gift with these countries, which are crucial to America's national security interest. The lack of curiosity from most of the media is repellent and really corrupt. But I think the dam is about to burst. We have Hunter Biden looking at this grand jury that has been put together, staring him deeply. You see, the New York Times and the Washington Post are now sniffing around. They've admitted the laptop is real, and they've realized this is a bombshell story, finally. Meanwhile, Florida Representative Matt Gaetz entered into a U.S. House Judiciary Committee records the content of Hunter Biden's laptop, as well as the receipt from Max Computer Repair, where the laptop had been dropped off, that evidenced the FBI taking possession of the laptop in December of 2019. Still, the FBI Cyber Assistant Director testified that after 3 years in possession of the laptop, no assessment has been made. In a release to the Congressman's office states, Gaetz presented FBI Assistant Director for the Cyber Division, Brian Vondran, in a Tuesday committee meeting on whether the laptop created cyber vulnerabilities for the country. The FBI director stated that he does not know the current location of the laptop, or whether outside actors like Russia were using the laptop's contents to compromise the first family. He also stated that the reason he was appearing before the committee that day was not to discuss the laptop, but rather the FBI cyber program. Who has it? They said. I don't know who has it, said the FBI director. What now you're telling me right here is that as the assistant director for the FBI cyber department, you don't know where this laptop is after it was turned over to you 3 years ago. The response? Yes, sir. That's an accurate statement. How are Americans supposed to trust that you can protect us from the next colonial pipeline if it seems you can't locate a laptop that was given to you 3 years ago from the first family, potentially creating vulnerabilities for our country? Sir, it's not in the preview of my investigation responsibilities, he said. But that is shocking that you wouldn't, as the assistant director of cyber, know where or not there or international business deals, kickbacks, shakedowns that are on this laptop that make the first family suspect that some sort of compromise, they said. They also introduced a House resolution that would strip security clearances of the 51 intelligence officials that signed a letter declaring the content on Hunter Biden's laptop is Russian disinformation. Shortly after the story broke in October of 2020, the Spook Who Cried Wolf resolution states that the 51 signatories on the letter who publicly and falsely decried Hunter Biden's laptop to be Russian disinformation should be barred from holding any level of security clearance indefinitely. Hunter Biden laptop story was brought back to the forefront earlier this month after the New York Times states that it had authenticated the emails found on the Biden son's laptop that was abandoned in a Delaware computer repair shop in April of 2019. On October 19, 2020, just days after the New York Post broke the story regarding the massive trove of data recovered from the laptop computer, 51 current and former intelligence officials signed and released a statement called a public statement on the Hunter Biden emails, disregarding the findings as Russian disinformation. Since then, 4 of the 51 officials have stood by their initial support of the letter, while the rest of them have egg on their face and they're going, well, yeah, I guess it was true. Could you imagine if it was one of Trump's sons? Do you think they would have lost that laptop? Or let me rephrase that. If you think they lost that laptop, you're an idiot. Move the fuck on. They didn't lose shit. The State Department is being sued by a government watchdog group after the department said they would not be able to fulfill a documents request involving presidential climate envoy John Kerry's office until after the next presidential election in 2024. What are you hiding? Protect the Public's Trust, PPT, a government watchdog, filed the transparency suit against the State Department on Wednesday after the department said it wouldn't be able to fulfill the group's Freedom of Information Act request on Kerry's official office until November 18, 2024. This means that the State Department said they cannot fulfill the request until the next presidential election. PPT Director Michael Chamberlain torched the Biden administration over their lack of transparency in a statement yesterday to Fox News Digital. The Biden administration promised to be the most transparent ever, Chamberlain said. But when the State Department has asked for records about John Kerry's office, whose work touches on energy prices, international relations, many of the issues the American public cares about right now, they refuse to comment to anything until after the presidential election. It doesn't take a huge cynic to believe politics may be a factor, Chamberlain concluded. According to the suit exclusively obtained by Fox News Digital, PPT initially filed the Freedom of Information Act request with the State Department on October 20th, 2021 for meeting requests, external and internal communications, and legal counsel communications from Special Envoy for Climate Change, Senior Advisor Jesse Young. The request also asked for Young's official calendar, schedule, travel logs, and itineraries, government purchase card transactions, and government cell phone logs, all of which they have to give up through the Freedom of Information Act. Young was previously advised by Senator Chris Murphy, Democrat, Connecticut, and was on the State Department team that engaged in negotiations for the 2015 Paris Climate Accord. In that press release, PPT highlighted a portion of their lawsuit that included a quote from a memo by Attorney General Merrick Garland on importance of government transparency. As the Garland memo makes clear, timely disclosure of records is also essential to the core purpose of the Freedom of Information Act. An agency purporting to give itself more than 3 years to complete a Freedom of Information Act request is anything but timely, the lawsuit says. Particularly where, as here, the department's proposed completion date conveniently allows it to be hidden information about high-level political appointees working on one of the administration's highest priorities until just after the next presidential election, it concluded. This could hardly be said to promote transparency or accountability. A State Department spokesperson told Fox News Digital in a Thursday email, as a general matter, we do not comment on ongoing lawsuits. Yep. And next, if the lawsuit wins, there's something very damning in there that they don't want out. So you can bet that Joe Biden will sign some type of executive order or invoke executive privilege to where you don't get to see it until after he's out of office. And I say after out of office because he won't be the next president. Representative Andy Briggs, Republican, Arizona, contends Democrats have a stake in digging for more details about the FBI breaking its own rules to probe elected officials, political candidates, religious organizations, and the news media. The FBI conducted an internal audit, a highly redacted version of which came to light earlier this month, and found 747 compliance errors across 353 separate cases in the category of sensitive investigative matters. That's shocking to you, right? Yeah, no, it's not. The Bureau acknowledged the 2019 audit findings were unacceptable. We've heard them say that before, haven't we? While the FBI has faced increased scrutiny in recent years for alleged politicizing investigations into former President Donald Trump, the problems apparently are much broader and likely to go beyond the report, said Briggs, a member of the House Judiciary Committee. It possibly includes information about the surveillance of candidate Trump and later President Trump. But this is almost 750 compliance problems and 350 cases, Briggs told Fox News. The next step is to call on the committee to have a hearing on this. If I was in the majority, I would want to get to the bottom of this. I suspect this conduct goes back for multiple administrations. There's been an ongoing problem affecting members of both Democrat and Republican parties. Big sign until March 21st letter with the House Committee Ranking Member Jim Jordan, Republican, Ohio, and Representative Mike Johnson, Republican, Louisiana, to FBI Director Christopher Wray, requesting an unredacted copy of the report, documents referring to or relating to the audit, an explanation of whether the FBI resolved the matters, and a description of the FBI's open investigation into political, religious groups and others named in the audit. Biggs said, as of Thursday, he has not received a response to the letter of the inquiry. That's pretty damn shocking to you, isn't it? Good God. You know, it's the old saying that I love my country, but I fear the shit out of the incompetent motherfuckers that are running our government in all levels. Briggs added that if the Democrat-controlled House doesn't investigate the matter and is unwilling to compel production of documents and testimony from the FBI, then a new Republican House majority will be ready to investigate and hold hearings come 2023. We can't let this go. It's an important issue. We've got to get to the bottom of this, Briggs said. The committee will have oversight in the next session of Congress. An FBI spokesperson confirmed the Bureau did receive the letter from 3 GOP House members, but did not say whether it would respond to the members or when. So basically, the FBI is saying we're above the law. And the people responsible for making sure that we're not, we don't give two shits about. So fuck you and what you won't. We're going to do what we want to do because we're the FB fucking I. The FBI takes compliance very seriously, especially when it comes to sensitive investigative matters, which is why in 2019, we conducted the initial audit of those matters, the spokesman said in an email response to Fox News. While the number of items from the FBI approval, notification, and administration requirements noted in the report is unacceptable, we began implementing important changes in training and raising awareness even prior to the report, and we remain committed to ensuring all personnel adhere to our initial investigation operative guidelines. Well, that, as you all know, is a fucking lie. Nobody at the FBI gets held accountable for anything. Zero. We watched it unfold right in front of you when the last president was in office. We watched them let Democrats have free passes and Republicans they tried to crucify to the cross. I can't even read the rest of that story. It pisses me off so much. This is going to really piss you off if you're an American. If you're not an American, probably not going to bother with it. The White House Initiative on Asian Americans, Native Hawaiians, and Pacific Islanders posted a celebration of Women's History Month Friday, this was last Friday, honoring activist Uriah Qasemi, who was a public admirer of terrorist Osama bin Laden. Qasemi was a Japanese-American activist for communism and radical equality during the 20th century. Career as an activist was controversial and a volatile one. A victim of violent U.S. discrimination, an early voice for racial harmony, she also championed Chairman Mao's Great Leap Forward and was an advocate for terrorists. Political and civil rights work, but backed away from mentioning her support for bin Laden. I consider Osama bin Laden as one of the people that I admire. To me, he is in the category of Malcolm X, Che, and Fidel Castro, she said, after the terrorist attacks of September 11th, 2021. I think Islam for bin Laden. I thank Islam for bin Laden. America's greed, aggressiveness, and self-righteous arrogance must be stopped. War and weaponry must be abolished. In the same 2003 interview, she said bin Laden has been primarily fighting U.S. dominance, even when received money from the U.S. when he was fighting in Afghanistan. He was fighting for Islam and all people who believe in Islam against Westerners, especially the U.S., even when he was fighting against the Russians, she said. A Japanese American was placed into internment camps during the outbreak of World War II. Executive Order 9066 was policy implemented by the U.S. government under President Franklin Roosevelt to round up and imprison U.S. citizens and non-citizens of Japanese descent. The imprisonment has gone down in history as one of the most outrageous violations of human rights in U.S. history, alongside slavery and the Indian Removal Act. This racial prosecution radicalized her, and she spent the rest of her life attempting to follow the footsteps of Malcolm X, who she deeply admired for his radical advocacy and practice for achieving equality. She eventually converted to Islam later in life. For 50 years, she spoke out about oppressive institutions and injustice in the United States. Her activism supported the liberation of empowerment of African Americans, Asian Americans, and Puerto Ricans. She also is a supporter of the Xing Path movement, a terrorist cell led by former philosophy professor Abel Guzman. Xing Path killed at least 24,000 people over a course of 12 years in its campaign to overthrow the Peruvian government and the communist revolution. What has been taken place in both Peru and the U.S. is a serious campaign to discredit Guzman and the Shining Path moment. And who supports her is an outstanding woman in celebrating women's history. Drum roll, please. The Biden administration. The people that are responsible for our lives. She's right up there with Alihan Omar, claiming that American military and American veterans are terrorists. Yep. There's a special place in hell for people like her. And my faith tells me that she'll find that one day when her time on earth is done. Folks, we're at well, I was going to say a crossroads. To say we're at a crossroads would be a fucking understatement. We're in a world of hurt in America. The midterms are very, very important to save this country from the path it's on. I don't want to see Biden get removed from office right now. Reason being is Kamala Harris is worse. There's no to have her anywhere near the fact that she's where she's at right now is only because of her race and her sex. Nothing else. Not because she's the perfect person for the job, because she's not. She's proven that in a year. She's proven to be one of the most incompetent people to ever set foot in Washington. So to have her next in line is scary as all get out. So I hope, or the best we can hope for or pray for, is that Biden does make it through the rest of his presidency with Republicans taking over the House and the Senate to stop his radical agenda. And then in 2024, we replace him with a Republican, or hell, even an independent, for crying out loud. Anyone that is not in lockstep with the far left crazy ideology that is destroying America. And it is destroying America. If you haven't already done so, please check out DouglasDucote.com. Please subscribe to this channel. Ring the bell so you get notifications. And then come back often to check to see why you aren't notified of a show or a video. And you'll find that you are unsubscribed by YouTube, and then resubscribe. It's the only way we can beat them at their game. I have one of the largest YouTube channels that's on a downward spiral because they don't like the conservative voice. And instead of just deleting my channel, they just unsubscribe 1,000 people every 28 days. Just for shits and grins. Nothing I can do about it. They've already deleted my other channel that was set up just for this show, not my regular videos. So I'm in their arena. I have to play by their rules until there's something better. I thought Trump Social was going to be it. Truth Social, not Trump Social. Although that's probably what it's called by everybody that's on it. Haven't got on it yet. I'm trying, but my number hasn't come up, and people with my way above my number have. So I'm not sure what's up with that. We tried to go to Rumble, and that program is that's just, there's just nothing out there. This is the closest we can get to getting the message out there. That's why we encourage people on every show to go to DouglasDucote.com, because no matter what YouTube does or doesn't do, you can always find the show there, and you'll even if we're not able to stream it live there, when it's over with, it'll be there. Okay, so and there's nothing YouTube or the left can do about that. So we play their game. This channel by now would be well over 400,000 subscribers at the rate it was going. And we were almost at that point when they started taking away subscribers, unsubscribing them. And they say that people unsubscribe. And then I go into analytics of this channel, the background, the back scenery that I can go into to, make all the changes and adjustments and see how everything's doing, the videos are doing, the show's doing, and everything is up. It's skyrocketing. Okay. This YouTube channel is doing leaps and bounds. It's all in the green and all going up. viewership, everything. Even people subscribing, and YouTube keeps unsubscribing them. So I think we're at 126,000 right now, and it's just going down because that's what they want to do. So go to DouglasDucote.com if you've already done that, and so that you can always find this when YouTube says enough. Because eventually, even if it gets, well, let's just leave it at that. I've got other plans that I'm working on through the legal system with a bunch of other YouTubers. And we'll see. We'll see just how powerful they are when they have a class action lawsuit in their lap. And sadly, that's where we got to go, because they believe in communism censorship, just like Twitter and Facebook. So there's more than one way to skin that snake, and we're working on it. Slow process, but we're working on it. Again, you have many places to be tonight. You chose to be here. Thank you. I appreciate that. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, our country, and planet Earth. May God watch over and protect us and this planet, and hopefully intervene and stop the genocide that's happening right now over in Ukraine. Thank you all. Hope you have a blessed night and weekend. If I don't see you between now and next Tuesday, I'll see you next Tuesday for another episode of the show. Anything breaks between now and then, I'll put out a video about it or come on and do a special live program. Other than that, have a great weekend, everybody. Thank you for being here. Very, very much appreciated. Good night.